Alright guys, how you doing on this Saturday, this weekend? It's cold and it's raining. It's been in the 70s and 80s all week. It's going to be in the 70s this upcoming week, but yeah, when you get a couple of days off, it's cold in the 40s and it's raining. That's North Carolina weather, gentlemen. It is up and down. It's liable to snow a foot in a month around here. You never know. But anyway, I had some comments and some questions. Some guys were asking me what type of pliers and wrenches and things like that I keep in my bag and what I use. Somebody asked in particular about a set they saw me in one of the videos. It was the one I was doing when I was doing that zoning board, and I wanted to go over that and answer that question about those, where you can get them, different types, prices, and quality in the difference of them. But anyway, as far as I keep the Milwaukee strippers, needle nose plier, tips, cutters, and I've had these for a long time. They're good. I just like having them there because that one situation you need them. I don't necessarily have to keep them in the bag because of the other two things I have, but I always like them to kind of be where I can grab them and not have to go look for them, so I keep them in my bag. But pretty much can strip anything. Very sharp cutter right in here. You guys have used them. You're probably familiar with them. You've seen them. Needle nose tips you can grab, get a good pull on something, strip just about any wire you need real quick. I always like strippers, and the other ones you'll see I had to get a little used to them, but I kind of always like the strippers on the front end, not the back end of the handle or the pivot point, because I don't like having to reach around a wire to get it in there and strip it. I like to just be able to grab it and strip it and go with it. So that's why I always carry this type of a stripper in my bag. But these, hands down, are very high quality. They don't fail. I have two sets, one in this bag, one in another bag, and I've had them probably 3 or 4 years, and they don't rust, they don't lock up, they don't seize. Never had a problem. They've been wet, and they work like they're supposed to work every time. So that's a good pair of strippers to get if you're looking for a kind of a combination of a needle nose stripper and a cutter combo. We'll get to these in a minute. I keep the Woods crimpers, and I have diagonal cutters. I don't keep them in my bag just because I just don't need that extra single tool that does the one thing in it. These Woods wire strippers, and most wire strippers with that design, have a cutter right here on the tip, and it's long. You can reach in, cut a zip tie. When you put a zip tie in, reach in there, snip it off. I don't need the flush cutters. I don't need my zip tie to be flat as a pancake. You know, I ain't worried about getting my hand cut on a zip tie, especially one that I put in. These cut close enough that you're not going to be having a problem with that. Different options on different types of crimps you can do with these, but I like these because they're wide. You see some guys, they carry those little narrow, skinny crimpers, or they've got the cheap Cobalt or the wire strippers with the little pinch on the end for your plier and all your different stripper sizes. And then on the back end of the candle, they have different crimpers. Once again, you got to take that, you got to reach around the wire, bring it in and crimp it, and they're real skinny, and they're always loose, and they're not really tight. I like these. You get a wide crimp, so when you go to crimp that fitting, you're getting it from one end all the way to the other. You're not going to have a little skinny crimp where you have to crimp it, and then maybe you want to move back and crimp it one more time to get a solid crimp. This is a wide fitting, so when you crimp down on that thing, it's going to crimp it from one end to the other, one solid crimp. But the main reason I use these is typically just to reach in and cut something. If I need to reach in and cut a wire, cut a zip tie, real nice tip on the end of it, you can get something real fine in there and snip it and cut it. So those are my backup crimpers, but they're my primary cutters to reach in and snip a wire, cut off something, cut a zip tie. That's what those are used for. One that I was questioned about were these. These are Carlisle WSCCP. So decide you want to get a pair of these, don't order them from Amazon. They're $40 on Amazon. Don't order them from their website. They're $40 on their website. Go to your Napa Auto Parts. You can search Napa Auto Parts close to you. Go into their website, and they'll tell you if they have any in stock. If you go to Napa Auto Parts, they're $25. So it's $15 less if you actually go into a Napa. Napa carries these tools. They're in their electrical section where they do their auto part stuff, and that's where I got them. Snap-on makes a version of these. Well, Snap-on, I would say, made the original ones. Carlisle made these. They're exactly the same. Difference is a blue handle and a red handle. Now the Napa handles are a little bit thicker. Now these are dipped. These things don't slide. They don't twist. I've got 2 pair of these, and they do not come off. They do not move. They're not going to come off. I've had these for 2 years now, and these handles do not slip and slide, and they do not twist. So that's a concern. You're not going to have it. They're solid. They don't flex. They're sturdy. The tension in them, some people like their stuff where it's loose and it just flings open real easy. You can adjust it right here with this nut if you want them a little looser. I like mine with a little bit of tension in them, so I can just kind of control them better. I don't like something that just flies in and out. You know, these don't do that. These do. So I don't like anything that just flings around. I like them that have a little bit of tension where I can control them. But these have your plier tip on the end. If you need to reach in and grab something, pull on it. Maybe you're trying to get into a small hole in a wall behind a thermostat to get that thermostat wire and grab it and pull it out. If you're just trying to reach in and grab something and pull it in general, it has a nice little tip on the end of it. It's got your little ridges where it'll grip something. I use these, pull wires off capacitors, contactors, all kinds of things. You've got your non-insulated crimp, and you've got your insulated crimp. Then right in here you have a cutter. On the back side you have a cutter, and then here are your different gauge. I think it's 12 to 20 gauge. So I use these on thermostat wires, most low voltage wiring, and some high voltage, basically like contactor fittings, capacitor fittings, wires like that. They strip those just fine. You just kind of got to get used to, you know, like I said, the strippers. I like the strippers on this side where I can just grab the wire, strip it, and go. I've gotten used to using these, but they're small, they're compact. I like them, and I'll show you how they work real quick. This is a bag of wire that I keep. This bundle here, anytime an old unit comes off of a house, I can get my hands on it. If the heater kits, or we replace a heater kit or something, and all the wires are in good shape, I grab them and pull them off. Because everybody knows, you show up to a mobile home air handler or older Goodman air handler or any particular kind of air handler, and your sequencer or your heat relay is seized or burnt or melted and the end of the wire is melted, I can go in this bag and just grab a replacement wire. All these came off heat strips, few different sizes, gauge size, make sure I get the right one, but I can just reach in my bag. I don't have to make a wire, I can grab one. So when you get old equipment taken off a house, if all this stuff's in good shape, I pull those wires out. So if I go to another unit and that wire's melted, and maybe it's melted enough that if I have to go far enough back to cut it, to put a new fitting on it, now it's too short and it barely wants to reach the connections, I just go grab one of these out of my bundle, go in there and plug it in. But anyway, I've got some different wires here, so that's what I'm going to do. That's how easy this thing cuts. Right off. Cutter on the inside, if you wanted to use that one, cuts it right off. And these things have been used many times. They do not get dull. So stripping a wire, put it right where the hole you need for your gauge size, pull that thing right off, twist it, put your fitting on. So now I'm going to show you how the crimping works. I use a lot of insulated crimpers. I don't use uninsulated crimpers, or I'm sorry, stake-on fittings. I use insulated fittings. as much as I can. I try to stay away from the non-insulated, and I really like the completely insulated fitting as opposed to the one that's just the shaft is insulated. And sometimes these are wider. Maybe they don't fit into an area. You're trying to slide it to a fitting that's internal to a relay or something, then I'm going to use one of these. But I like to use the non-insulated or the fully insulated fittings where everything's insulated, nothing's going to touch it in short. But for this purpose, I'm going to use one of these. Just going to slide this on that wire. It's an insulated fitting, so I'm going to use the insulated crimp on this thing. Squeeze right down, it's that easy, and that makes a very good crimp, if you can look at that. So that wire is not, see the red in my thumbnail, I'm squeezing and I'm pulling, it's not coming off. So these things work real good, and I would recommend getting a set because you can slide this in your pocket, in a small bag. It doesn't, see, it's not as bulky and as fat, so it doesn't take up a lot of room as opposed to, and it's not as heavy as these are. So I have 2 pair of these, and the other reason I have the second pair is you saw the tool bag video. I've got the little grab and go box that I carry. It's just got a meter in it, an 8-in-1. It's also got a set of these in it, same things. This is actually the older pair, so I bought these since then. I've had these for about a year. I've had these for a little over 2. As you can see, they're not rusted. They still work great. They're still sharp. They still cut great. They still strip. But having the 2 options of the insulated and non-insulated crimp and the pliers on it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tools basically in one. So they come in handy, and like I said, you can find some of these on Amazon, other off-brand versions, and I learned the hard way. That was my first set in this box. And before I got these, I said, well, oh, there's a set on here for $14 on Amazon. Looks just like them. I got them. They're thinner. They've got a lot of play in them at the pivot point. They're loose. Sometimes trying to get your strippers around that gap, because they're so loose and there's so much movement. It's not a tight squeeze and a slide when you do your strip. You got to kind of go at an angle. They're real flimsy, and then when you go to squeeze them, you can feel, oh, there's the train, guys. Yeah, got a train not too far away, some railroad tracks. But when you go to squeeze them, you can feel right in this area where these things want to come together a little bit. So they're not as sturdy, they're not as quality made with the type of machining and the metal that they use. They're lighter actually as well, but they're flimsy. So if you're gonna buy that $14, $15 pair, and I don't even know what the names are, you're gonna get what you pay for. If you're gonna get something cheap, it's not gonna work out. It's gonna frustrate you. So if you want to get the snap-ons, they've got the snap-on warranty, obviously. You can get those, and if something happens to them, take them back, get another set, and find the truck, swap them out. But these are exactly the same. There's not a difference whatsoever in them, and they're, like I said, $25 at Napa Auto Parts, as opposed to paying $40 for them on Amazon, or paying $57 for the snap-ons. Yeah, the snap-ons are almost twice as much as what they charge for the Carlisle version that they keep at Napa Auto Parts. And Napa's not going to have any cheap stuff, so that's what is there. The little parts box, I keep O-rings for TXVs and 3-amp, 5-amp fuses, and double spade connectors, things like that in this little box. Wire nuts, 1/4-inch, 5/16 screws. But so that kind of answers that question on those. That's where I got those, and that's, you've seen how they work. I like them, and they're never out of my bag. Something I grab is going to have a set of these in them, because if I'm doing low voltage work, like I said, the zoning, having to rewire a zoning board, a thermostat, whatever I need to do, put some fittings on, I can do all 4 of those things with that one tool. So Napa Auto Parts guys, that's the Carlisle WSCCP pliers strippers. Look those up. Somebody else had asked me about this, and I keep the little brush to clean out doing a maintenance or checking a furnace. Obviously your pressure switch hose where it ties into your draft motor or your heat exchanger or whatever model of equipment you're working on, where it pulls that vacuum, those things clog up. I keep that little brush and I can slide it right in just about all those, clean that thing out. But this is the flame sensor cleaner. Use this to clean flame sensors. I prefer to keep my $100 bills in the bank, and the time it would take me to open my wallet and slide one out and pick one out, I can go ahead and pop the flame sensor inside this thing and just spin it. There's a brush in there, soft bristled fine brush, turn it around, slide it out, and the flame sensor's clean. So I like to keep my money in the bank, and a $1 bill is made out of the same thing as 100. So if you got a $1 bill and you want to use that, they do say those are good for cleaning flame sensors, but I use that, or I just grab my wire brush. That's about as quick as anything. Grab that. I don't clean against it real hard grinding. I lay the flame sensor in between the bristles and just slide it around just like that, and that flame sensor is clean. So don't need a $100 bill to clean a flame sensor. Somebody else asked me about these. They saw this in a box, one of the videos that showed up somewhere. These are electrical connections, or Polaris connectors. If you ever gone to an air handler, Carrier, Payne, Bryant, Goodman, not all of the older air handlers had the terminal block where you would bring and tie in your high voltage and tighten it in, and then all the wires would just plug the terminals on that block. They would bring the line voltage in, and then you had your L1, L2 came in wherever it connected at, or what it was plugged to in the unit would come up, and you would wire nut them together with the big blue wire nut or a large red wire nut. You go to it, heat strip's been running a lot, unit's low on charge, auxiliary heat's been running. You go in there, you're on a no heat call, they don't have any power, and the wire nut has melted and the wires have burnt and come apart. I go back and replace them with these Polaris connectors. So basically you'll have your incoming wire and your equipment wire. You'll run one wire in here, you'll run the other wire in there, and you'll come in here with your Allen keys and tighten each one of these fittings down and tighten those 2 wires in, and now you have your connection between the 2 wires. It's already insulated, so you don't have to put on a big blue wire nut and get it all snug and hope it's on there tight enough and then wrap it with electrical tape. Just put one of these fittings in there, one wire in, the other wire in, tighten them down, and you've got your high voltage connection. So those are Polaris connectors. That's what somebody else had asked me about those. So anyway, I was just trying to answer. I try to read the comments and people have some questions about things, and those were a couple of the questions that had popped up recently. What are these, and where did I get them, and how much they cost, and what was this thing? So hopefully that answers those questions. A lot of the other stuff I keep is pretty common. I keep a 3-amp fuse popper, but that's that short Pro tool with the light in it. So if you're checking for your low voltage short, you get 24 volts on one of these, and then you go test each individual circuit. When you find the one with the circuit, the fuse inside this will open and that light will come on. So somebody else had asked about that. But anyway, guys, just thought I would make a quick video to respond to a few of the commenters and a couple of the questions that I'd gotten. And I hope the weather where you are is better than the weather where I am today. But anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll get back to work next week and see what we can do. You guys have fun. Like, subscribe, comments, questions. Try to get to those best I can. But enjoy your weekends. Enjoy time with your families. We'll get back at it on Monday morning. Thanks for watching, guys.